Sí, no, creo que como ella no, el problema es que ella no va a ser capaz de escucharlo y saber cuándo yo te leer y cuando él tiene la primera, cuando pase de diapositiva, llamarte la relación para que la ya pueda ver y la pero es que tendríamos que ver también si te beneficia tanto ella por para que no tengas que hacer esto es okay. Entonces podemos hacer eso, no interrumpir nada, que ella siga derecho y yo pues aquí yo haciendo la idea central. Ajá, listo, déjame yo le digo.
1, 2. You hear me?
Yes.
I think in order to do not stop you when you are speaking, we want to make a change so you can continue making your presentation. So the teacher is going to make a translation on the big screen here. So please, Anne, don't worry about making any stop. You please continue talking and making your presentation as you plan it, okay?
Okay, I can do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Eh, 94-12-10. 94-12-10.
Vale, muchas gracias.
94-12-10. 94-12-10.
Muy buenas tardes, noches ya para todos. Para quienes no me conocen, mi nombre es Franklin Asprilla. Soy chocuano, economista en esta prestigiosa Universidad Gran Colombia. En esta tarde, en nombre de la Universidad La Gran Colombia, su rector, doctor Marco Tulio, nuestra rectora en la ciudad de Armenia, vicerrectores, jefes de departamento, decanos. En nombre de Ascendia Consulting, quiero darle a ustedes la más cordial bienvenida a esta primera conferencia internacional. Esta conferencia es el resultado de un acuerdo de cooperación estratégico que se ha firmado entre la Universidad La Gran Colombia y Ascendia Consulting. Ascendia Consulting es una compañía de consultoría colombiana que hace parte de un holding de compañías canadienses. Nuestro propósito para con la Universidad La Gran Colombia es ayudar a que la Universidad La Gran Colombia sea más reconocida internacionalmente por su calidad académica, que sea bien reconocida internacionalmente por la adopción de la innovación y la aplicación de la tecnología en todos sus procesos académicos y administrativos, y fundamentalmente la internacionalización de la universidad. Queremos que el nombre de la universidad resuene a nivel internacional en todos los ámbitos académicos. Quiero dar las gracias de corazón al doctor Marco Tulio por todo el apoyo y por toda su compromiso por seguir trabajando por la Universidad de la Gran Colombia. Quiero agradecer al doctor Víctor Manuel por todo el apoyo que nos ha dado, todo el trabajo que realizamos durante el año 2025, a Jamie por ayudarnos con todo el desarrollo de este cronograma de actividades. Quiero agradecer a Ascendia, nuestro presidente Amit Mankekar. Quiero agradecer a Jorge Bermúdez, presidente de Power Integral Solution, al gerente de Ascendia para Colombia, Orlando Bermúdez, por todo su compromiso para ayudar a la Universidad de la Gran Colombia. Esta es una primera conferencia internacional. Hemos propuesto a la universidad más de 20 conferencias y todas estas conferencias están ligadas, están conectadas, están linkeadas con todos los ejes temáticos que hacen parte del Plan Estratégico Institucional de Desarrollo 2021-2027. Hoy hemos empezado con esta conferencia que está amarrada al eje de internacionalización. El tema de hoy, Building a Successful Professional Career in the New Century. This section will cover how to make better career decisions and how to start creating a working career plan. This will include understanding how the world of work is changing, for industrial revolution technologies impacting the workplace, and how the Gran Colombia University members can set themselves up for success given the changing world. Lastly, I will examine type of success, how people are motivated by different aspects of work, and how to use this type of success to determine the type of professional development most relevant to your type of ultimate building a satisfaction and engaging career. Nuestra conferencista hoy, la doctora Anna Casca, has been a career Canadian consultant for over 15 years. She has worked in the field of personal and professional development for over 20 years. She has a background in business, psychology, education, and career development. She specializes in career planning and decision-making, career practitioner from across North America, and familiar with her research, articles, and presentation of work trends of the future. She has worked with both engineer and technical people looking to improve their workplace satisfaction. And thank you so much for taking out time for this fantastic presentation. One more time, in name of Gran Colombia University and Ascendia Consulting, thank you. Without more preamble, the microphone is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to set up my screen and we'll get going. Okay. Can I have a verbal? You can see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to discuss today about how to build a successful professional career in the new century. So something that people really don't tend to think that much about is that career decision-making is actually a very complex process. And now that there are thousands and thousands of more jobs and technology is impacting the workplace, this decision-making is only becoming more complex. So I want to just do a quick pulse check for you to think about your own career. Do you think that you take good care of your career? I had a client who sat in my office after a couple of sessions, and he said, I realized in looking back on my career, I have not taken good care of my career. I have not been intentional about the career decisions that I've made. So what we're going to be looking at today is thinking about how we can create an active career plan, how we can keep up with fourth industrial revolution and industry trends as well, how we can be aware of our own type of career success, and then what we need to do in terms of professional development that we need to build that type of success. The purpose of this session is to shift from a job search mindset to a career planning mindset. It's to explore the fourth industrial revolution technologies so that we understand what is coming down the pipe and their impact on industry and industry trends so that we can make better career decisions. And it's also to examine different types of career success and then the supportive professional development for each type. So when I work with clients, I don't do job search. I do career planning, and there is a difference. What tends to happen is when people are in university, they're much like my husband. He's given me permission to share this particular story. When he graduated from engineering, employers came onto the university. He put out his resumes. He got interviews with 3 companies, and then he got some job offers, and then he chose one, and then off he went. And then what happens is then your company starts to say, oh, we think you would be good at this. You know, would you like this position? Or would you like this position? And then what happens is we can get stuck on a career track that we didn't necessarily want. It's just one that was presented to us, and it's not necessarily one that we intentionally chose. Oftentimes, when I work with midlife career changers, that's their story. They started out on the right career track, did their studies in areas they wanted to, but then somehow got off track as they planned their career. So something that I encourage all of my clients to create when we work together is a career plan of 2 to 3 years. What are you working on right now so that you can move to the next 3 to 5 year career jump? And then where do you want to head from there to the next 5 to 10 years? If we never look down the road and think about where we want to take our career, the skills that we need to build, or what direction we want to go, or where our industry is going and how we want to fit in that, then we tend to not end up where we really want to go. Career decisions are about self-knowledge, our interests, our values, our aptitudes. You might do some assessments that help you with some of that. What tends to happen, especially now, I've noticed, is that we tend to be focused all on ourselves. What do we like to do? What do we want to do? And we're not thinking about industry knowledge. What does industry need? What do companies need? What do employers need? What are their interests? What are the trends? What are my interests in different industry? And the statistics from the Manpower Report really reflect this. The number of employers who cannot find workers with the skills they need has gone from 38% to 74% worldwide in the last 10 years. That means there's a lot of employers who are looking for people with the skills they need, and they can't find them. And I believe part of this is because we are not keeping up, and I mean career professionals as well as the general public, we are not keeping up with how industry is changing and what industry needs. So this quote comes from a book by William Bridges, and he stated that we will all have to learn new ways to work. And while in some cases those new ways of working will require new technological skills, which we're definitely being impacted by, in many more cases, they will require something more fundamental, the skill of finding and doing work in a world without clear-cut and stable jobs. Today's workers need to forget about jobs, and it's not in the literal, it's more figuratively speaking, and instead look for the work that needs doing and then set themselves up as the best way to get that work done. People will need to learn how to look for industry opportunities. It really is becoming an entrepreneurial world. And that means changing your mindset, thinking like a contractor and not an employee. If you think about it, a job and job titles, all of that comes from the second industrial revolution. When we put that into perspective, and then we see how things changed in the computer era and the information age, and how things are changing in the fourth industrial revolution, we are going to need to be able to change and adapt. We are going to be much more project focused than specific job focused. And that's inside opportunities within organizations and as outside contractors to organizations as well. So why is all of this important? The fourth industrial revolution is here. Many of these technologies have actually already been here for 20, 30 years. And it is so much more than AI. But if you've been paying any attention to the news, that's all you hear about is AI. However, there are 15 to 20 new technologies that are coming down the pipe that are really going to impact our workplace. So we need to be thinking about how will these technologies shape our world of work? How will they impact different industries? And what skills are you going to need in the industry that you choose to work in? So I like this definition of the fourth industrial revolution because it's a lot to take in. But when we have models, and especially visual models, I think this helps us put it all into perspective. So I like the definition that the fourth industrial revolution is a combination of the physical, biological, and digital worlds. And when we start talking about the different technologies in each of these areas, then we start to see how all of it fits together. In the digital technologies, we have artificial intelligence, which we just hear so much about in the news today. But we also have big data. You can't have good artificial intelligence without good data. And then we have the Internet of Things, where computers talk with other computers without human interface. We have blockchain. Most of us are familiar with cryptocurrency, but blockchain is used in many different ways. It can be used to track how the fabric and how your clothing is made. Having a code on your garment that you can look at with your phone, and it will tell you the whole process from start to finish of how your piece of clothing was made. We have cloud computing, and most of us are familiar with cloud storage, but it's a big part of things that are coming our way as well. And then we have nanotechnology that I really haven't talked very much in the past, but it's definitely part of one of the digital technologies that's impacting us. Quantum computing, which I like the definition of quantum computing in terms of if your computer is a book, quantum computing is the whole library. And so when you think about how much computing power will be able to happen because of quantum computing, it's really staggering. And then we have augmented, mixed, and virtual reality as well. To give you a couple of examples of how that's impacting our world, we think about the Internet of Things and smart cities. So we will need people such as smart grid modification engineers who will be able to take the different municipal computing departments and be able to combine those all together. And they're what's known as smart grid modification engineers. So how does waste management and transportation and all the different areas of a municipality talk to each other so they can be a smart city if they're not interconnected? And that's what these engineers will do. Nanotechnology is impacting the healthcare sector. It is creating new coatings for materials so that they experience less corrosion. It is creating new ways of using fabric. So many different applications of this technology. And that's just a few. All of these technologies have so many applications across industry. And not only that, but each one of these technologies is an industry in and of itself. And each one of these industries has a growth rate of approximately between 10 and 15% year over year for the next decade. So there is tremendous growth in every single one of these technologies and their industries, and then in the industries that they impact. The physical technologies include advanced robotics, autonomous vehicles, which includes drones, and 3D printing. To give you some just very different examples of how robotics are being used with a combination of artificial intelligence and high definition cameras. We're using advanced sensors, and we're monitoring deep sea exploration and coral reef health. That's just one area that robots are being involved in our lives. In 3D printing, just to give you an idea of the size of the industry, up to 71% of companies report lacking the skills or training needed to use their 3D printing effectively. And a study by A.T. Kearney estimates that 2 to 3 million new jobs will be created by 2027 through 3D printing. So that's only a short period of time. And that's just a drop in the bucket of the new positions and careers that will be invented and created by these technologies. When I started my research in 2019 and started asking the question, what's going to happen to careers? Is AI and automation going to take everything? I had a number that was researched that was 1 million cybersecurity analysts that we would need worldwide. In my recent research, that number has increased to 4 million cybersecurity analysts. And as AI increases, we're just going to need more. In the biological technologies, we have bioprinting, neurotechnology, synthetic biology or biotech, and genetics. To give you an example, the synthetic biology, biotechnology field, in the area of wastewater treatment alone is a $45 billion industry. This is USD in 2025 and expected to be 88 billion by 2033. Many of these industries are doubling and tripling in only a matter of a few years. And we are not keeping up with the skills needed to supply those industries with the people and the skills that they need. But it isn't just the fourth industrial revolution. There are more industry trends as well. And we're going to touch on those as well, and new technologies that are happening in different industries. So all of this technology, and you may have been hearing how AI consumes so much energy, or how much energy blockchain consumes. So to give you an example, Bitcoin, just the one company, consumes as much energy as the Netherlands. So as much as a small company. That's a tremendous amount of energy being consumed by just one company in one technology. And so when you think about that, so many possibilities. We're looking at EVs as well and other electric vehicles being plugged into the grid. This means that we are going to need to be able to supply all of this with the power and the energy to keep moving and growing as our economies and as countries. So that means demand for more energy, and it means new projects, which means more construction. And I'm not just talking about solar and wind. We talk a lot about solar and wind up in Canada, where I'm from. But we are going to need all types of energy, geothermal, oil and gas, and of course, with what's happening in Venezuela, that's very relevant to your country as well. Small modular reactors and nuclear power plants, hydrogen fuel cells, and fusion. To give you an example, not everybody is on the EV bandwagon. Korea is using hydrogen fuel cells in their public buses, and that should be incorporated and rolled out by 2030. So all kinds of different energy sources that we're using and that's important for us to know about. But it isn't just the ones that we know about. Gravicity is a company that is creating gravity energy storage systems. So there's lots of different types of energy being created. And when we talk about the future, I don't think that we can talk about the future unless we talk about aerospace as well. So something I would like you to think about is, if we think about back at Kitty Hawk, when the Wright brothers flew their flying machine on the beach at Kitty Hawk, we know that there were people on that beach watching these people, and some of those people were thinking, what a bunch of crazy fools, and other people were thinking, this is the greatest thing in the world, and we can't wait to see where this goes. So I'd like you to think about, when it comes to aerospace, if you were on the Kitty Hawk Beach, who would you be? Are you the person who thinks aerospace is just an industry for a bunch of rich people who just want to build their own rockets to go to space? Or are you saying that this is the birth of an industry that we get to watch right in front of our very eyes? The space industry is expected to be 2.7 trillion by 2040. When I started this research in 2019, they estimated 1.1 trillion by 2040. That's how much it's grown just in the 6 years that I've been doing this research. And it contains so much more than just rockets or satellites and telecom. Now, right now, currently, satellites and telecom make up the vast majority of the aerospace industry, but Sierra Space is a private industry that has, or company that has, they have plans and a prototype for inflatable space parks. Literally, you pack it all up, take it up into space, pop it open, and it is like an international space station that pops open right before your eyes. And people will be working up, private industry will be working in these space parks. They will be doing space manufacturing, space pharma. We have to look at space tourism, which is growing, and space mining, which is just going to be huge when people look at starting to mine different asteroids. We have the Moon and Mars bases, and it is not just NASA and their Artemis project that is working on this, but it's also China and Japan and another number of other countries as well. We have the Cornwall Spaceport in the UK, and then I can see where we're going to have emergency services needed for aerospace as well. If you think about the news in the last few years, we've had a couple of instances now where astronauts have needed emergency care. So if we put more and more people working and doing research into space, there's going to be more health problems or issues that come up, and they are going to need to be rescued. Waste management is a huge area. We create so much garbage on the planet. Upcycling Technologies is creating low carbon cement from industrial waste. They're a company here in Calgary. But they're not the only other industry that is busy and rapid and growing. So the whole entire transportation industry is in desperate need of people. Aviation is just one area, and aviation is really growing. Airport capacity is expected to double by 2040. Every time you take a flight and you complain because your flight got canceled and now it takes forever to get somewhere, this is the problem. Airports are currently at 99% capacity. So think about that. Think about how much we need to grow in just a short 15 years. So we're going to have an increased use of regional airports, an increase in construction of regional airports. We're looking at new plane designs. We use 3D printing to do a lot of that. Auto aviation has created a whole new design on smaller planes that cuts fuel consumption almost in half. Boom supersonic jets, their Overture plane, new designs, new fuels, new engine designs. So tons is happening in the aviation field. In entertainment, if anybody has been to Las Vegas in the United States, the Sphere has created whole new audio and lens technology in order to do this. Now that technology, you know, is not just going to stay in this one building. They're going to use it and adapt it and use it in other ways for other entertainment venues. And then we're looking at using AR and VR at concerts, mixed reality as well. There will come a time where you will be able to see the lyrics of songs float in front of your face. We're looking at new infrastructure, stadiums and conference centers. I know in the US they're building 4 new NFL stadiums for football this year alone. In construction, the infrastructure report from 2019 in Canada tells us that we have, first of all the immediate projects that we need to have done and replaced. And then there's the ones that we should be looking at replacing them very soon. Every country has these. And I'm not sure what other countries are doing, but I know in our municipality, we have not been spending money on immediate infrastructure repair. And so we have had major water main breaks in our city because the infrastructure was not repaired when it should have been. So I'm finding that a lot of careers moving forward are in the whole field of maintenance and keeping things going. If you think about it, there are 16,000 water treatment plants in the US alone. So you think of how many of those are going to need to be replaced. Everything within our infrastructure. With wastewater treatment, we use a lot of biotech, as I've mentioned. But that's not the only construction projects that we're going to need. I've touched on the ones for the energy projects, roads and high-speed rail projects. China alone, 2030. And they do this using 3D printed technology. They 3D print the railway ties. They have a machine that is automated and runs 24/7. So what happens is the railway ties, first of all, they level the ground and then they just literally pump out these railway ties, lay them down one after another, and then lay the track on top of them. They have this construction down to an art. And technology used in construction, just construction alone. The UAE is expected to have to be using 25% 3D printed construction by 2030. But think about that too, because we always worry about automation and technology taking all the jobs. That still means that 75% of their construction will be being done using traditional methods. So it takes a while for things to be implemented. Other trends in the environment, vertical farming. This is happening to save space in agriculture. It's being used to use less water, less fertilizer. Transportation costs are cut way down when we can create vertical farms right in the area that we need the food. Desalination plants, we need fresh water. This is something that's really happening around the world. And desalination plants, it's not just the large plants, they're starting to scale them down and create smaller plants as well. And I'm just going to grab a drink here. And then we have things like biophilic architecture. And what biophilic architecture is it's a creation of bringing nature into architecture design. So it's sometimes called sustainability architecture as well. It really improves mental health of people. So I can see that this is an area and a field that will be growing in the future. And then we have areas like CNC machining, which is kind of the opposite of additive manufacturing or 3D printing. So while 3D printing is we add polymers and different materials to create and then print an object just like we do on our 2D printers that we have plugged into our computers. CNC machining instead is the opposite. You take a block of something and then create a new part or something else that you're trying to create. So where this really comes in handy, both of these technologies, is if you have an old boat or an old airplane that needs parts, but you can't get those parts anymore, you can use these technologies to create these parts, allowing us to use materials and equipment for much longer than we would have normally been able to. In the healthcare field, the fourth industrial revolution is just revolutionizing this industry. The field is expected to grow by 30%. So really think about this. In the next decade, you have just one industry that is growing by a third because demographically, a lot of people are retiring, people are getting older. So especially there's a lot of countries where the baby boomer generation is a big part of that. Of that country's population, and so they're going to need a lot more healthcare. Things like bioprinting, drones, and biotechnologies come into play a lot. So bioprinting, if you're not familiar with it, it is like 3D printing, but using organic materials. So what this means is, say you're a burn victim, and instead of having to do skin grafts, what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to take some of your organic material, mix it in with a bio ink, and then they'll be able to print you new skin that they can put on top of your burn and basically grow yourself new skin. And think about this. We'll be able to have this in the future in every hospital, but we're not there yet. We're still at the research stage of bioprinting. So I'd like you to think about, if we're in the research stage still, how much growth in that industry is going to happen, how many salespeople they're going to need, how many marketing people they're going to need, just how that's all going to grow. It's going to take the place of organ transplants. So much is happening in this field. So what we want to think about when we're thinking about our career plan, when we're thinking about when we're leaving school and post-secondary about what we want to do, think about what problems do you want to help solve? Rather than trying to think about what jobs are out there and which ones are being replaced by AI, think about what problems do you want to solve? What does industry need? And then, as William Bridges says, set yourself up to help solve those issues. And now that we've looked at some of the industry trends and fourth industrial revolution and how that's changing things that are happening in the world, I wanted to touch on briefly the different types of success and how you like to work. This is some work I've been working on for a while. I don't have all the types of success here because we're a little bit limited on time, but I just wanted to touch on it so that you start thinking about it moving forward in your career. Usually, when we think about success, we think about climbing the corporate ladder. Or we might think about financial success. We want a job that pays really well. Oftentimes, when younger clients come to see me, they want a job that's going to pay well. And of course, we want to be paid well for our job, but there's other aspects too that might become more important to us as we work in our careers. For example, you might actually want to be a divisional leader and not at the top of the corporate ladder. You might want to be an entrepreneur, or maybe you want to work more on projects, larger projects or more complex projects, or maybe you want to specialize. And so we'll look at all of these. If you want to climb the corporate ladder, and there are those people who do. My husband was very successful. He was an electrical engineer and worked his way up and was the president of an engineering consulting company. I know that he spent a lot of his time in meetings, and I know that that's not how I would like to spend a lot of my time. So I know that this is not a type of success that appeals to me, but it's the one that's the most familiar. And so what happens is too often we think this is how we want to succeed, and then we're not necessarily building our career in a way that's true and authentic to who we are. One of the problems with the corporate ladder, as you know, is it's a pyramid. The higher up you go, there's limited positions. This is a type of position that involves a lot of strategic thinking, a lot of meetings with corporate management. And when it comes to the professional development that you need to do in order to move up the corporate ladder, you're going to be looking at doing management courses, courses in strategic thinking, and that's going to be more of your focus. Compare this to if you're more interested in financial success. So then you're going to be looking at potentially your salary being the most important thing when you're looking at different jobs or different careers. Chances are you're going to have to move to other companies to obtain higher salaries. But the reality is that if this is a type of success that appeals to you, that monetary success can come from investments and other income. It doesn't necessarily have to come just from your salary. So when you're looking at professional development, it makes sense that you would be taking finance courses or investment courses or just learning how to invest in real estate, whatever it is that can bring you more financial wealth over the course of your career. Another type of success that I find is oftentimes people want to be leaders, but they sometimes move above the leadership area where they're actually really comfortable and where they like to work the best. So this can be an area leader, a divisional leader. It's the people just under the corporate management level. And these leaders emphasize team collaboration and team performance and mentoring. Where their focus is on building a great team. How they move is not up the corporate ladder. Where they're going to lead to is they might be a divisional leader in a company where they're looking after 20 people, and then they might go to a different company and take over that division, and it's a division of 50 people. So they might take over larger teams in larger organizations. So the growth comes from taking on larger divisions or moving internationally or other ways that gives you sort of more experience. These people would be looking at professional development that requires them to look into more management courses. They're going to want to know how to mentor people well, how to work collaboratively, doing much more team building. That's going to be more of their focus than a corporate leader. And then there are the people who want to focus on entrepreneurial work. And growth comes from owning their own business or taking on entrepreneurial roles. And so the professional development is going to be in business acumen, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. So these are people who might work in corporate for a while and then decide to go out on their own. Another type of success, especially in engineering, is projects. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients, especially engineers, I ask them if they want to be senior project managers. And a lot of them do. What they want to do is they want to move along with the size of the project. So maybe when they are young engineers, they're working on a smaller, like a civil engineer might be working on a smaller bridge project. And then they might grow to be working on, medium or large size bridges. And then as they move up in their career, maybe they're actually working on some of those huge mega projects that happen around the world. And so they're going to need project management credentials, and growth comes from taking on larger or more complex projects. I worked with somebody who was more kind of in the chemical and environmental industry, and they said they didn't want larger projects. They wanted more complex projects. They wanted to be working on the projects that had harder and more difficult challenges that they wanted to solve. So this means Project Management Institute courses, specialty courses, conferences around your area and the projects that you work on. And then you have people who specialization is actually where they want to work. Lots of engineers that I work with have been moving up into project management because that's kind of the natural trend in the engineering field. And after working together, what we realize is they've moved too far away from the technical side of engineering. And so then what happens is we figure out how they can become a specialist and be a lead on a technical team. So one of the ways that I kind of test these couple of types of success is I'll say, would you rather be a project manager and be more concerned about managing the team and the project, or would you rather be the lead on a technical area of the project and specialize in a particular area around the technical side? And I often find with engineers that they've gotten out of their space and are in the management side when they really should be on the technical side. So growth comes from becoming a technical expert, but you don't have to be in a technical field to specialize. So for example, I specialize in career planning and career decision-making in the career development field. Other people specialize in resume writing and networking. So specialists exist in all different industries and across the board. And so you can think about how that might be an area that you want to build your career on. So professional development for people like myself, it means conferences and courses in your specialization. So lastly, what we want to touch on is, so moving forward in this future, how do we create a successful career in the coming century? So I like to talk about developing a get-ready mindset. We want to think globally, entrepreneurially, and technologically. This project that we're doing right now is a perfect example. We have people from all over the world attending this session. I'm up in Canada, Jorge's from Canada, and then we have people from Colombia and other places in the world attending. This is a great global project, and it's how we can work together with other people around the world. And that's something in my own practice that has really expanded. And then entrepreneurial. How can we create and be the person that fills in that gap? How can we get a team together that can create new entrepreneurial experiences? This is just one example of many. And then technological. We need to be thinking about how does the fourth industrial revolution technologies and other industry technologies impact the industry that I'm working in? So in my particular industry, all of the augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality is a technology that's coming down because a lot of conferences, rather than Zoom, are becoming virtual conferences in other ways as well using this technology. So I'd like to check in with everyone thinking about moving forward. What is one way that you will take better care of your career? You can contact me, you can reach out, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I am the only Ann Nakaska on LinkedIn, so I'm super easy to find. My company is Constructive Career and Life Designs. My email is here. You can reach out to me if you have questions. And again, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you found some of this information interesting, I have a number of different articles. You can visit my LinkedIn site and read them at your leisure. There's tons of information there. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne, for such a great presentation. We really appreciate it. It's really fantastic. How do you walk us through different trends and tendencies and opportunity in different economic sectors? So now we are going to move to a Q&A section. So before that, I just want to expresar una vez más mi agradecimiento a todos ustedes, a la Universidad de la Gran Colombia, Ascendia Consulting. Gracias por estar aquí. Este es, como decíamos al comienzo, la primera conferencia internacional. La Universidad de la Gran Colombia está comprometida en hacer de la universidad un gran jugador a nivel internacional y para eso estamos aquí. Ella nos paseó, nos mostró las diferentes oportunidades que hay en diferentes sectores de la economía. Y para nadie es un secreto que después de la pandemia y con el advenimiento de la cuarta revolución, el mundo cambió. Universidad que no se meta en esta onda sencillamente se queda obsoleta en la educación y en todo sentido. Por eso estamos aquí. Ella nos mostró una gran cantidad de oportunidades en diferentes sectores de la economía y las universidades tienen que definitivamente transformarse. Y en el tema de la educación, en el tema de la investigación y algo importante, en el tema del emprendimiento. Nosotros desde Ascendia queremos hacer de la universidad y sus campos centros empresariales, donde el estudiante no salga al mercado necesariamente a buscar trabajo, sino ojalá a ofrecer trabajo. Y eso tiene que hacerse con la participación de docentes, la universidad como institución y estudiantes. Tenemos el propósito de traer aquí en mayo unos empresarios que crearon sus empresas en la Universidad de Calgary. Hoy en día son 3 profesores socios de una empresa que trabaja inteligencia artificial, que provee servicios de tecnología al gobierno canadiense en el Ministerio de Defensa y que están interesados en venir a la universidad y conocer de primera mano nuestra institución. Y eso es fabuloso para nuestra institución. En el mismo sentido, queremos seguir apoyando para que toda esta parte de convenios de cooperación internacional se hagan realidad en la universidad, pero todos tenemos que entrar en el tema del bilingüismo. Cuando estudiantes desean y pueden ir a intercambios internacionales, necesariamente tienen que hablar inglés. Usted puede ver en una mesa de negocio un africano, un asiático, un europeo, un latino y personas por diferentes partes del mundo. Pregunten qué idioma están hablando. El inglés es la lengua de los negocios y ahí hay que involucrarse. Esta conferencia, a propósito, fue hecha así. Y finalmente cambiamos la idea de hacer una traducción, pero yo sueño. Yo soy gran colombiano, egresado, estudié economía aquí, me emigré hace unos años, pero nunca me olvidé de mi universidad. Y quiero liderar un proceso para ayudar a que nuestra universidad sea un jugador internacional. Yo les agradezco que ustedes estén aquí y los invito a que hagan de esto algo grande, que le hablen a sus compañeros de estudio, a sus decanos, a sus profesores, para que todo el mundo se involucre en este proceso de transformación. Ahí hay una gran cantidad de oportunidades, pero hay que prepararse para eso. La única manera de poder participar y tener mejores oportunidades, mejores trabajos y todo. Hay una serie de oportunidades en diferentes sectores de la economía, tecnología, finanzas, etcétera. Pero eso depende de ustedes. La universidad hace su parte, la universidad hace un esfuerzo, pero depende de su comunidad académica. Vamos a proseguir con las preguntas. Si tienen alguna pregunta en particular, se la voy a agradecer. Aquí el profesor nos va a ayudar a traducirle a Anne para que ella nos pueda aclarar. Entonces, ¿alguien tiene alguna pregunta en particular que hacer? Si no hay preguntas porque todo el mundo entendió, todo el mundo está claro y eso me alegra. Profesor, profesor.
Un agradecimiento muy especial a la doctora
Una casca,
Anna Tasca.
una casca.
Nacast. Ok, perdón. Eh, digamos, mi nombre es Alexandra Mejía, soy la decana de la Facultad de Ciencias Económicas y Empresariales. Y si bien su presentación está muy dirigida al desarrollo de nuevos negocios con nueva tecnología y en sectores de la economía que, digamos, son novedosos y de gran inversión, considero que como facultad el acompañamiento en la estructuración de estos nuevos negocios es muy interesante. Desde su experiencia y su investigación, me gustaría saber qué programas podríamos desarrollar desde Colombia para hacer el acompañamiento en desarrollo de nuevos negocios a estas líneas y diferentes sectores que usted hoy nos trae y nos propone en el desarrollo de las habilidades del talento humano. Gracias.
Well, she's the dean of the Economic Sciences School here at La Gran Colombia University, and she wants to know what kind of agreements and business we and you as the and other, I mean, with different companies or different for new startups. How would we be able to do that as agreements or something like that?
Okay. I think I understand part of the question. So she's in the economic sciences, correct?
Yes.
And then is the question more around what are the opportunities, or is it something else?
The opportunities that the School of Business and Economic Sciences here can offer from here, from Colombia.
Okay. So how can the school itself help?
¿Cómo puede la facultad?
Is that what the question that you're asking? So how can the schools better support their students? Is that?
A los estudiantes? Yes, how we can create talent to accompany the development of this.
Okay. So if I understand the question correctly, some of the things that I have seen. Oh, sorry.
No, continue.
Okay. So some of the things that I've seen in other universities, when I visited the University of Madison, Wisconsin, they had a small business section, plus they were expanding to medium-sized businesses that would, they would offer business space to students who had research projects that showed business promise. So when I think of that, I think of things like microfinancing. I think of economic development projects that the university could potentially, capstone type projects that the university could encourage their students
please.
to look at.
So I can translate what you have said. Ella asistió a una universidad en Wisconsin donde se notó el trabajo de los estudiantes a través de investigación en pequeños proyectos sobre ese tipo de temas. You can continue, please.
Okay. Yeah. And so by creating projects, creating opportunities for students to create small businesses at the university, that's a way of developing sort of broadening the academic experience. And I don't know how much your university tends to do those things. I know here in Calgary, we have our research park. So a lot of money goes into research and research development of small startups from
investigación ha ayudado para que los estudiantes amplíen esas oportunidades de negocio que han tenido a través de esos pequeños proyectos de investigación. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's kind of what I'm familiar with, what universities are doing to help encourage students in different programs that expand out and allow them to start thinking about the outside world and industry before they graduate, or just after they graduate.
Lo que hemos
Sorry.
Lo que he notado, cómo los estudiantes pueden ampliar esa visión y pueden impactar en el mundo exterior a la universidad. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully I answered that question.
Que sí se contestó. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
¿Alguien tiene otra pregunta?
Good evening. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this space. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Jorge from Bogota. And well, my question is related to education and technology. Taking into account your expertise on technology, my question is, well, based on my experience, because I work as an IT agent for a company in United States, but also I'm working something related to education. And in the future, I would like to be a teacher. So how can I approach those things, education and technology? Because technology is unstoppable. You know that we interact with technology every single day, and the advance of artificial intelligence is, well, it's not possible to stop it. So we have to learn how to live with them, how to live with it. So my question is how I can use it both, like the
Oh,
technology and
absolutely.
education.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So just so you know, education is a great field to be going into. The UNESCO report came out and said that we would be needing 44 million teachers worldwide. So many of those in developing countries. I was going to sneeze. I don't want to. I don't want to blow your ears off with a sneeze in my mic. But the technology that is impacting education, there's a couple. One is gaming. So gaming is becoming more prevalent within education, but specific to specific skills that they want taught in education. But the other area that is just huge in terms of technology and education are the virtual realities. So augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality.
Excuse me, ma'am, to be able to,
Yes. Okay, yeah.
La pregunta que hizo Jorge fue que, ¿cuál era la relación entre la tecnología y tu futuro trabajo como educador, ¿cierto? ¿Cómo se puede hacer esa combinación? Y ella nos está diciendo que a través de las realidades virtuales, la realidad aumentada. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I would explore, so if you, the answer to your question, I would explore how augmented and virtual reality is being used in training. Because what is happening is these technologies are cutting down training time by 30%. They increase accuracy, recall. It is just, what's the word I'm looking for? It makes education so much better when people are being trained using this technology.
Yes, ma'am. Entonces, ella dice que es en la capacitación, a través de la capacitación y el entrenamiento, que estas realidades virtuales pueden ser verdaderamente importantes en ese sentido. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So then for you, I would look at who do you want to teach? Who do you want your students to be? Little children, junior high, high school, post-secondary, adults. And then look to see how these technologies are already being used, how they're being used around the world. And then think about how you would like to engage with that technology and that way of
Yes,
educational training.
Yes, ma'am. Entonces, pensar en cuál es la población que se va a formar, a educar, y el objetivo que se tiene y cómo se puede trascender hacia otros espacios más grandes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's really it. Is I would explore the possibility of how those technologies are impacting education, and then see where I want to fit within that, because there's going to be so many different opportunities. You could work in educational sales, selling. Like ZSpace has this amazing computer that uses some of these virtual technologies. So it's really up to you where you want to guide your career in this field with education and technology.
La educación con la tecnología tiene un amplio espectro, entonces podrías utilizarlo en varios campos.
Perfecto. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? ¿Una más? Si no, thank you so much, Anne. We really appreciate it. I hope to see you soon in Calgary. So looking forward to see you soon. Thank you. God bless you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Una vez más, a ustedes, gracias por venir. Quiero agradecer sinceramente a los dos profesores que nos han ayudado con la traducción hoy. Muchísimas gracias. A ustedes, creo que seguir apoyando, amando esta gran universidad. y confío en Dios que Dios nos ayude a ver esta universidad en alto nivel en temas de educación a nivel mundial. Depende de nosotros seguir haciéndolo. Nosotros estamos desde Ascendia comprometidos en esto, la universidad está comprometida, así que no nos queda más sino que trabajar en el mejor interés de nuestra universidad. Yo sigo pensando que la educación no puede tener estratos. Todos tenemos derecho a tener acceso a educación de alta calidad. La internacionalización y la mejor oportunidad es, para lograrlas hay que prepararse bien. No podemos seguir aislados, hay que compenetrarse y la globalización, la internacionalización es parte de esto. Así que para cualquier profesional en cualquier disciplina, tener acceso a los mercados globales, la competencia no solo está aquí, la competencia no solo está en el economista o administrador de su curso de otra universidad, está afuera y hay que prepararse muy bien y hay que ser no bueno, muy bueno para competir a nivel internacional. Muchas gracias una vez más, que Dios los bendiga y que Dios me bendiga.